Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Lori and this is my June wrap up. But before we dive in, make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. This month, I read 4 books in the month of June. I also read 3 graphic novels, but I'm not adding that to all the books that I read in one year just because they're graphic novels and it's not really reading, it's just looking at the pictures. So the first 2 books that I read are both from C.S. Lewis. And if you don't know, C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite authors. I love his books. This month I read Out of the Silent Planet, and I had heard so many really good things about this book from so many people that I know in person and online, and they just absolutely raved about this book, but they also said that it was probably going to be a little bit dense and difficult to follow. I just didn't realize how much I wouldn't like it. This book, I did not like it. And it's not because he is a very dense writer and he writes, about theology and that kind of thing. I think it's because it was sci-fi, and I just don't really like sci-fi. The only 2 books that I can think of that are sci-fi books that I gave 5 stars that I really enjoyed were Dune and Project Hail Mary. I already knew that I was a little bit skeptical about this book when I heard it referred to as the space trilogy. I don't really like anything about space. I don't like space. I don't like aliens. And so already it was putting me off. But then I heard somebody say that they shouldn't have named it the space trilogy because it's technically not taking place in space. They're on a planet. It's not Earth, but it's not necessarily space. I gave this book a 3.25 stars. I thought I was going to give it a 5 stars. I thought that I would really enjoy it. But honestly, by the second half of the book, I had to switch over to audio to listen to it because I did not think that I was going to finish it because I was just so bored. But this wasn't my favorite. I didn't really like it. The second book that I read by C.S. Lewis was The Chronicles of Narnia. This one I've already read. This was a reread, but I read this such a long time ago that I honestly don't even remember what the story was about. But this one I gave 5 stars to. This book had me crying at the end, and I know that it's like a middle grade type of book. I know that it's for kids, but the story is just so wholesome. I really enjoyed it. It made me cry at the end with Aslan and the table. I did do some annotating here for some of my favorite places, and I am on a mission to finish the entire series. I have the whole box set. My goal is to read one of these books every month or more if I can manage to squeeze it in. And I want to be done reading this series by the end of the year. Next book that I read was Yesteryear, and I gave this book 4 stars. I know a lot of people are kind of conflicted about it. It's a very polarizing book. If you're a Christian, you probably didn't read it or you hated it. And if you're not a Christian, then you probably loved the book. And I know a lot of Christians were feeling some type of way because the way that the Christian main character, Natalie, was being portrayed was kind of in a negative light. The story is making Christians look as if they're bad people, and I disagree. I will say that the first 50 pages of this book, I was triggered as well. I didn't like the first 50 pages. I didn't understand why the character was being portrayed the way that she was, and I felt angry because I felt the same way that a lot of people did. But the more that I continued reading it, and by the time I got to halfway through the book, my perspective changed. I like this book. I genuinely enjoyed it. I think that if you're on the fence about reading it, I would say, especially if you're a Christian, I would say go into reading it with an open mind. I think, and this is my hypothesis, the reason why a lot of Christians are feeling triggered by this book is because it's calling them out in some way. Like there must be some kernel of truth to what this story is saying that is rubbing them the wrong way, and they just don't like it. Because the way I see this book, I don't see it as a mockery or a condemnation of Christianity. I see it as a condemnation and basically calling out the hypocrites in the church. The Christians that are hypocrites, that are into this whole performance facade, this portrayal of a certain perception that they want people to see them as. Those are the people that I think this author is calling out in her story, not Christianity as a whole. The last book that I read for the month of June was The Poet Empress, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4.25 stars, and I didn't think that I was gonna like it because I heard somebody describe this book as having feminine rage. I didn't really understand what that meant at first. I had to go look it up, and then I realized I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I'm not really a feminist, like I don't really read that kind of literature, but I read it because it seemed to be really popular and a lot of people were talking about it and raving about it, and it was a standalone and it was fantasy. I liked how atmospheric the world was. It really transported me into this old school, like imperial China with all of the garb that they wear and just the mannerisms and the culture. Like I could see myself in that story. I think the part that really, like, I got teary-eyed when I was reading this, but the part that really moved me was towards the end of the book. And if you guys have read this book, then you know about the little fish. Not the fishes, but the little fish towards the end. That just, there's a line in there, and I'm not gonna share it with you guys because I don't want to spoil it for those of you that haven't read it, but there was a line in there about the little fish towards the end of the story that just really got me, and it really got me teary-eyed. This book is not a romantasy, so if you're going into this thinking that it's a romantasy and it's a happy-go-lucky type of story, this is not that kind of story. It is kind of it's pretty dark, I would say. It's dark. There is a lot of abuse in the book. There's a lot of dark behaviors in the book. It's not explicit, which is something that I really appreciated because that's also something that I was concerned about. I knew that there were certain elements of abuse in the book, and I didn't know what kind of abuse that was. I thought it would have been something like in a more explicit sexual way, but it wasn't, which I'm really glad because I don't like reading those kinds of books either. It wasn't gory, it wasn't graphic, it wasn't anything like that, which I really appreciated. But these last 3 books that I read, they weren't actual like physical novels, physical like reading word novels. I don't even know how you describe that. They were graphic novels. Kill the Villainess. This isn't the first book in the series. This is actually the second book. And this is the third book, but I wanted to show you guys so that you could see how beautiful these covers are. This graphic novel was amazing. The illustrations in this book were fantastic. The story, I don't know if manhwa graphic novels are supposed to be very eloquent when it comes to their storytelling. Like I wasn't expecting to have such an enthralling plot, but it was entertaining. I guess because it's graphic novels, like it has to be pretty simplified. I gave these 4 stars. I also read The Merman Trapped in My Lake. This one also had stunning illustrations. This book was actually the reason why I decided to go to the library and check out all of these graphic novels. I've already done 2 library hauls on my TikTok with videos of me going to the library and getting these books because of this book. If you're looking for a graphic novel that's more of like fantasy with a little bit of romance with beautiful illustrations, this is a great book to pick up. This last graphic novel that I read was The World After the Fall. And this one was kind of like a post-apocalyptic book because it was about these towers popping up all over the world with these monsters that were basically trying to take over the world. I didn't realize that I love action movies, but I didn't realize that I would also like action graphic novels or action books. From the first 5 pages, you were already thrown in to the action. Like there was just a whole lot going on. The towers are popping up, the evil animal monsters are coming in, people are dying, people are, you know, all the things. I had a really good time reading this one. I read this one in one sitting. I think it took me maybe like an hour and a half to read through this entire graphic novel. It was that good. These are all the books that I read for the month of June. If you have any other recommendations for graphic novels that you think I might like, leave them in the comments below because I am still looking, despite the fact that I have an entire stack behind me of graphic novels that I haven't read. But regardless, leave them in the comments. If you like this video, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.